Hello there and welcome back. In today's lesson we're finally going to be putting the tarot deck to work, and I'm going to be showing you some basic reading techniques to start off with. So, as you can see, here's my box, my deck stored in its velvet bag. I'm just going to set this aside. Now, just some simple advice before you start. We've already talked about storage in the early lessons, but in terms of preparing for your reading, don't rush. And what I would suggest is don't go by what you see on YouTube. I know the constraints of filming mean that very often you have limited time, but in terms of shuffling your deck and actually preparing yourself for a reading, do take your time. One of the other things I would suggest is don't follow the practices that you see online, particularly with tarot readers violently and quickly shuffling their cards. Treat this with respect. Just to give you some sort of idea, this tarot deck is over 10 years old. If it's looked after, one of these will serve you for a lifetime. I don't believe in riffle shuffling. This is not a deck of playing cards. I'm also not one for sort of shuffling violently. There's a reason for this for me. Shuffle gently and shuffle slowly. Actually, while you're doing this, you're slowing yourself down, you're slowing your thought processes down, and you're bringing yourself into a meditative state for the reading. After all, if this is to be taken seriously, when you come into a reading, you're bringing your life, some of your most important life questions, some of the most intimate issues of your heart, or the heart of whoever else you're reading for. That isn't to be taken lightly. You come into a reading looking for answers or looking for the cards to shine a light on what you already know. These cards are actually going to give you solid guidance. In that sense, my attitude towards them has always been treat the physical cards themselves with respect. If you treat these with respect, you'll treat the answers that they're going to give you with respect. And as I say, from a practical point of view, tarot decks are not cheap, you know. It's an object of worth, an object of beauty, and a tool for enlightenment. So, shuffle gently, shuffle slowly. I've already pre-shuffled this deck before I started, so it is quite well shuffled. When you've shuffled, I would say take some time to pause. Everyone does this differently. Sometimes I just like to sit with my hand rested on the deck to give myself a sense of physical connection. A good friend of mine and a very adept reader, she will rest her deck for a few moments. Once she's shuffled, she'll close her eyes. She'll bring herself into a very still space before she begins to lay any cards out. Do what feels right for you. The main thing is that you are in a calm, tranquil and still space before you begin to turn the cards over. So, we've shuffled. In terms of dealing the cards, again, there are several different things that you can do or that you might want to do, depending on the size and scale of your reading. Some people like to cut the deck into 3 and then rearrange it, maybe. I mean, I'm rearranging it by cutting those piles again and then just restacking them randomly. Now, having shuffled, you could just turn the cards over as they come from the top of the deck, which again is what some people like to do. Another option is just to shuffle lightly, continuously between each card and then take the one off the top of the deck. Or my preferred method, which sometimes for big readings works very well, spread your deck across the table, and then without thinking too much, just run your hands across the cards and just draw from this spread where your hand feels led to. Again, I don't think too much about this. I kind of do it quite intuitively. So we are now going to move on to a reading, but in this case it's going to be the simplest of all readings, the single card draw. So when I do this, I just shuffle until I'm ready, and then I either draw from the top of the deck or let the deck fall open in my hand and I take the card from the centre. For a single card reading, it can cover so many things. Maybe you just want to draw a card for the day to tell you what's most relevant to you today, or to give you something to focus on, or what you should be focusing on. Single card reading can be to illuminate yourself, the most important things that are going on inside you. A single card reading can be illumination with regards to another person. What should I do in regards to this person, or what's going on in them? I don't always know whether it's right to ask those kind of questions. A single card reading can be, if you're reading for someone else, something to reflect back to them, A single card reading can be a goal for the day, a goal for the week, or a goal for the month. There are so many different things. But shuffle your cards, and then when it feels ready, I'm actually going to take the one off the bottom of the pile here. And we have the Two of Wands. So, say if we were taking this for our card for the day, the Two of Wands says that we're in a prime strategic position. We've got the world in our hands. So imagine you were looking at your relationship or your job. This means that when you step into work, on some level or another, you're actually at a good point for setting out on a journey. Your foundations are there. If you're embarking on a new work project, that says you're in a prime position to do so. It doesn't necessarily say it's going to be easy, but you're in a position of strength. Again, if you've drawn this on a relationship issue, it puts you at the beginning of the journey, but actually in a strong position. It says that there's a lot of potential. So what would happen if you drew this and you weren't exactly sure what it was speaking to you about? Well, this is where we can expand to a two-card reading. You can actually draw a clarifier card on that. Focus on the cards and ask yourself, what is this card? Why is it here? What's it trying to illuminate? And again, I'm going to take the one from the bottom of the deck. And in this instance, I've got the Ace of Wands. That says that it just completely reinforces what we've got here. It says that actually all of the potential has bloomed in your life for whichever path you're taking, and the two shows that you're ready to begin that journey. Now, if that's a relationship, the lust, the fire, the desire is there between you. And the two is saying that that can now be built on. If we'd asked the question with regards to our work day or our work project, again, all the inspiration, all the resources are already there. That's what this is saying. And this one is saying we can set out from a position of strength. So, two cards, that's all it takes. It's giving you a very basic answer, but even just meditating on those two can give you a lot. So what if we wanted to expand that further? We've got why the card is here, the message for the day. we can also ask another question. We can turn this into a 3-card reading. Now, on a practical level, what I do, my first card, I will put to the left. The second card, why it was here, I'll put there in the middle. Now, let's draw a third card. And we're going to ask, what's the biggest potential? What's the best I can reach for? You know, what's the most I can achieve in this situation? And when I'm ready, I'm just going to peel that card off the bottom. So, card number 3. The 3 of Pentacles, the card of collaboration, the card of working together, the card of material works. So, our first card has told us that we're in a strong position to set out. Our second card has told us that all that we needed for that journey is in place before we start. And actually, this is not just about our own achievements, it's about what we can achieve together. So I think this is self-explanatory both for work and relationship in this issue. So there we are. Before we know it, we've asked some simple questions with a small number of cards. Now, with these 2 and 3 card readings, again, there are so many different applications for them. Let's look at another application for the 2 card reading. Let's gather these back up. As you notice, I tend to sort of just randomly place these cards back into the body of the deck before I reshuffle. So we're going to do a 2 card reading, but we're going to do the 2 card reading in the context of a potential relationship. And this is quite a useful technique if you're working as a couple and you want to gain more insight into how you're interrelating and what your relationship is based on, what your interconnection is based on, the sort of day-to-day interpersonal dynamics. We're going to pick 2 cards, but each of these 2 cards is going to be for yourself, and then the other is for your partner. And this is about your connection, in effect. So, I think this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop shuffling, and when I'm ready, I'm going to take the card for myself from the bottom of the deck, and the card for my partner from the top of the deck. So, let's see what we've got. Card number 1, ourselves. And in this case, I've actually drawn a court card. So this is very much showing an aspect of my personality at this given time. Okay? I've drawn the Knight of Wands. For my partner, powerful, I've drawn a Major Arcana, the Death card. So what that says is that I think if a Major Arcana turns up for somebody in one of these 2 card readings, it says that they're actually going through a fundamental shift and that bigger forces are at play. So what can we glean about this relationship from these 2 cards? On this side, for me, this is actually drawing attention to the fiery, creative aspect of my personality. This is drawing attention to the fact that I'm passionate, but I'm not always the most mature person. This says that I tend to storm in and turn things upside down. A lot of the time for the better, but sometimes that can be a not very comfortable process. Okay? So, in effect, I'm not inconspicuous. In fact, I'm very conspicuous. Living with me is like being at the centre of a firestorm, for good or for ill. Okay? That can be exciting, it can be wild, it can be passionate, but it can also be disruptive. So what about my partner? This really changes the dynamic because we've drawn the Death card. Now that says to me that my partner is going through a fundamental and irreversible change in his life or her life. So what that says is that the process they're going through at the moment, they will not come out of unchanged, and it also says there's no going back. Now, that means if you look at these cards, that the dynamic of the relationship is about to change irrevocably. So, if you're drawing cards like this in a 2-card reading for a relationship spread, that says it's time to sit down and work out how you're going to navigate those changes between you. What your relationship is going to look like on the other side. Is there a relationship on the other side of that? What are these changes? You know? You may think this is very specific, but actually, one of the beauties of the tarot and why it's so powerful, it's not because a magic hand guides my fingers to draw the cards that are speaking specifically at any given time to me. It's much deeper than that. These are archetypes. All 78 of these are at work on one level or another in our lives at any given time. We don't know which cards we're going to pick. We have no control over which cards we're going to pick. They're face down, we can't see. What makes tarot readings so powerful is that these come out at random, and very often they'll touch something or trigger something that we weren't expecting. It's going on in our lives, but maybe we're just so used to it being there, we've not noticed it, we don't highlight it. That's what the cards do. And it's the very randomness of the pick that actually can have powerful consequences, because it shines a light where that light wasn't expected. So just look from those 2 cards. You know, what's changing in my partner? How can I go on that journey with them? Can I survive that journey? All sorts of questions for this guy. Do I need to tone it down? You know, is this appropriate? Do I need to draw on other parts of myself, you know, to aid my partner and my loved one through that journey of change? Powerful stuff, and we've only been looking at these cards for a couple of minutes. There's so many other questions we could ask in here. And you could spend a whole day just exploring 2 cards. But again, what happens if we expand this into a 3-card reading? So let's do that. There I am on the left. There he is on the right. Let's draw another card and ask ourselves, what's the common denominator in this journey? Okay? Gently shuffling. And in this instance, because I'm on the left and he's on the right, when I finish shuffling the deck, I'm going to hold it like this and I'm going to let it fall open. And I'm going to take this card here from the centre, because that symbolises the central ground for us. Okay? You couldn't make it up, could you? I've drawn the 2 of Wands again. So, I would say, placing that between those 2 cards, the duality says that this is a shared journey. It might be his journey directly, but I'm along for the ride by proxy, because this is a partnership, okay? The 2, again, it's potential, it's dominion. This is a confident place to start. He's got the world in his hands. So it says that even though this is a transformative journey for the relationship, there is a huge amount to look forward to. And it's actually starting from a very strong position. So it says that actually, even though this journey is potentially fraught with difficulties, that, you know, there's a very good chance that with the right work, you can come through this and come through it for the better and positively. So 1, 2 and 3 card readings. Now, so far, we've only worked with upright cards. So for argument's sake, say that we'd been working with reversals. If I did that, say if that death card had come out upside down for my partner. Now, we've got to look at the context of that reversal. Is that a process of change, transformation, and figurative death that's come to an end? But then again, is it one that's being resisted? You know, is this change that's being resisted? That's a bit futile, because actually this Major Arcana card talks of changes that can't be resisted and can't be fought against. Changes from which there's no turning back. So, again, if that was reversed, there would have to be some serious questions asked. Likewise, if my Knight of Wands had turned up reversed, we'd be looking very much at the dark aspects. This is fiery, inappropriate behaviour that burns. So that could say, let's say the death card was in the upright. My partner is about to enter a massive process of change. Now, if I'd drawn that, that's immediately facing me and asking me to look at my life and saying, well, what shit have you got to get together? What have you got to get over? And actually, maybe this is my fiery self being very self-centered and not really giving my partner, the attention, compassion, or care that he needs through this really difficult journey. We've not even begun to look, but again, you can get an idea of what the reversals do. Likewise, if that's upside down, that makes us look and say, well, maybe we're not starting this journey from the best position. Maybe we need to do some in-house cleaning and tidying before we start dealing with these issues. Just on a practical note, I've talked about shuffling simply for upright readings so far. We need to look at how you're going to shuffle your deck for reversals. Now, something quite simple. Again, you can do various different things. I know people who like to sort of spread their deck all over the table, rub the cards around with their hands, and then just pick out at random. That's perfectly legitimate. It's something I don't do. Now, again, call me anally retentive. It's about care of my cards. If you're constantly rubbing your cards around the table, you're going to scratch the surface of them. These aren't designed to withstand war. They are lightly varnished, lightly plastic coated. They will scratch, they will discolour, and actually they will fade. So think about your shuffling technique. Do something that actually is kind to the cards. Hence the shuffling techniques that I've shown so far. I will lightly fan my cards. Same difference. If you want reversals, another good card-friendly way to get those reversals, when you're shuffling, every so often, take a section, turn it upside down, shuffle those cards in. Take half the deck, turn it upside down, put it back, shuffle those cards in. Another way of doing it is to kind of concertina the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Small sections every time. 6, 7, 8, 9. I've cut the deck 9 times and I've just turn them upside down, upright, keep shuffling, randomise them. Okay? So, when you come to draw, I'm taking one from the top. I've got an upright King of Pentacles. I'm taking a partner card from the bottom. We've got the reverse Magician. And then, say if I'm thinking of that third card for what connects us, what binds us together. And I've drawn the Strength card in reverse. So, upright King of Pentacles for me, reverse Magician for him or her, depending on who you're reading for, and reverse Strength in the connecting card. So, you've been kind to your cards but you've integrated reversals into your shuffling process. So let's look a little bit more at this 3-card reading technique, because there are so many other things that we can do with this. So I'm going to place my cards back in here at random, and we can reshuffle, we'll redraw. We've looked at the relationship aspect of these 2 and 3 card readings. 2 cards, 1 for each partner, and a 3rd card for common denominator, connection, common ground. What if we took the 3-card reading and we looked at it in terms of past, present and future, which is what we're going to do now. So, shuffling my cards. For the past, I'm going to go from the bottom of the deck. Okay? You notice with me, I flip my cards over vertically. Again, find what works for you. You may want to just flip them horizontally, you know. If you're not working reversals, I have to be careful that my deck is reversed so that I flip vertically, my cards come out vertically. You'll find what works for you. You know, tarot readers have these odd, quirky habits. I've been told I'm very anally retentive and very OCD with my cards. I am. I actually very often reorder my cards after each reading. One of my friends, one of my writing partners actually, one of my collaborative artistic partners, thinks this is the most OCD thing they've ever seen. It is, because I'm a perfectionist, but then I'm also somebody who likes to bring closure to a reading. And believe it or not, me setting my cards back in the order, their original order of major arcana in sequence, and then 4 suits in sequence, pentacles, swords, wands and cups as I like them. That takes me a few minutes. What it also does is it brings a sense of closure to the reading. It also, for me, brings a sense of closure for the deck. I've shuffled these cards for that reading, so to set them back into the order that they came in means that I start afresh with the next reading. It's completely personal taste. There is no rights or wrongs. The point I'm making is build up your own rituals. Those rituals will have meaning for you, and they will actually put you into a clear-headed space for the beginning of the reading, and they'll actually set you back into a clear-headed space for going back into the real world when you've finished your reading. Okay? So, let's get back to this 3-card reading. I've taken my card for the present off the bottom of the deck. I'm going to take my 3rd card for the future off the top of the deck. I'm getting mixed up. I've taken my card of the past off the bottom of the deck, sorry. My card for the present is going to come from the centre of the deck. The card from the top for the future. So, we've actually drawn 3 upright cards in this. Now, let's, for argument's sake, say that we're going to look at this from a perspective. I'm going to look at this from a perspective of work. This is nice and easy to explain. Okay, I'm a freelancer. I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I teach tarot. My published work is mainly in tarot. So, let's look at this from my perspective of last year. Last year was a complicated year for me personally. It disrupted my work patterns. This year has been even more disrupted because of the COVID-19 crisis. I'm actually filming this course as the UK has been in lockdown, and I'm filming this lesson as the UK is coming out of lockdown. I need direction for how I'm going to get my work back on track. Okay? So, in the past, I have the upright card of justice. Now, when I say past, you can do 2 things. You can let the cards intuitively tell you what kind of timescale you're looking at, or you can meditatively set the timescale in your own head while you're shuffling the cards and drawing them. I've done the former. I'm going to let this talk intuitively. I didn't have a time frame in mind. I want an overall picture of what's happening with my work. Now, before things started to disrupt my work in my personal life, I was in what I felt like was a balanced and solid, stable position. I've now had 6 decks published. All of a sudden things were starting to come together for me. I felt like I had a solid platform to build on. And finally, the most important thing for me, I felt my work was getting its just recognition. So actually this Justice card coming out here reminds me, when I look into the past, that actually I was starting to feel good about my own work, and I was pleased that other people were starting to feel good about it too. I'd put a lot of hard work and effort in, and I really finally started to feel I was getting the just recognition that I deserved for that. Okay? So, what went wrong? And actually, the card that I've drawn in the present, in this reading, actually sums up the present beautifully, but it also sums up, that spreads back into the past year as well. I drew the 8 of Swords, and that's precisely where I feel at the moment, because the pandemic's locked me down in the house, and it's also put a lot of my career plans on hold. In effect, this has been career interference. My hands have been tied. So much publishing activity is now going slower. For me, the kind of people that I would have been selling or pitching my work to, they are now facing equal levels of uncertainty. So in effect, we're all in a bound position. It's more difficult to move forward or to see a way forward in this present. Okay? What about my future? Now, the card that I've drawn for the future actually gets me to focus on potential encouragement, because I drew the Ace of Swords. The new beginning, the cut through to victory, the crown of reward, the olive branch of peace, the palm branch of celebration. So actually, that doesn't give me a guarantee of success in the future, but what it does is it reminds me that actually to look for the good things in the future, and it reminds me that this is not always going to be the same. Nothing stays the same forever. The wheel always turns. I might feel bound at the moment, but at the same time, I will be cut free in the future as the wheel turns and goes upwards again. It's also, let's look at these 3 cards and let's say they don't have to be rigidly disconnected, past, present and future. They do. My present card spreads into the past. My future card steps back into the present. I can take hold of this and take control to a certain extent. You know, this actually is challenging me to look into the future and see a positive vision, but it's also challenging me to bring that sword into the present and look at actually what's gone right for me in the course of this lockdown. I'm here and I'm on camera. We're on lesson 28. Now, ironically, I might have been tied up and restricted in my career plans in other ways, but what lockdown did is it gave me the freedom, the peace and the quiet to sit down and film this tarot course, which is something I've wanted to do for several years. So despite this coming out in the upright, let's choose to reverse it, because actually reversed, that's interference that's, you know, actually no, it's not interference that's been cut. It's sort of the opposite of interference. I would say the bounds have been cut. Actually, yeah, it is interference that's been stymied and the bounds that have been cut. Lockdown has freed me up to actually take on this mammoth project of filming a 32-part Tarot for Beginners course. So some good has come out of it, you know. So actually, this future card is also getting me to reassess my present. The present card has actually made me look into the past, and even though there are good things in the past, it's made me look at how this has been stymied over the last year, because actually, even though this represents the present, it stretches right back into last year, where so much of my time was being spent supporting friends through illness. A part of my time last year was spent in mourning for a friend who died, so I was also dealing with bereavement. I was also dealing with health issues myself at the beginning of the year. So yeah, this actually speaks of this year, but it also speaks of last year as well. So actually, in a looser sense, this is a foundational card rather than just a card of the past. This is the card of what developed from those foundations, and this is a card of where I can potentially go. So maybe I'm not explaining myself 100% clearly, but you can see from this that there are lots of different ways that we can deal with even a past, present, future spread. Okay? We can do something different again. Let's do something more practical. Let me just gather these up. I'm going to turn that one round. I'm going to chuck it back in reversed, but then I'm going to do another staggering of the cards. Let's mix them up and randomize them again for reversals, okay? Let's say we've got a specific challenge. We're in a specific situation. We need advice. Let's take some advice from the cards with again a simple 2 and 3 card readings. 2 cards first. Let's draw our first card for the situation we're in, and let's draw a second card to give us inspiration and advice of how to get through that situation successfully. Okay? So, first card, foundation situation. Let's take it from the bottom. Okay. Justice again. You'll notice this. Strange things happen when you work with these cards. I think I can rationally explain how this process works, but then coincidences like this that are just too much to be coincidence happen every now and again, and you realise that, yeah, you're dealing with something very powerful. Situation I'm in, justice. Okay. The advice card. Let's take this from the middle of the deck, because again, this is not a culmination. This is a tool to help us along the road. Okay, I'm going to split the deck. I'm going to close my eyes, actually split the deck about there, and then I'm going to take that to the top, and I'm going to take this card. Whoa! And there's a connection. The 2 cards with the 2 pillars. So, the situation I'm in at the moment, the Justice card. Advice for going forward, the High Priestess. Okay, so how would we interpret this? Interpret this for yourself. I'm going to interpret it for me, just to give you an example. Okay? So, lockdown for me in 2020, more or less spending the best part of 4 months isolated, has given me many good things. It's given me the opportunities to get this course done. It's given me the opportunities to get my work life in order. It's given me the opportunities to reflect on my friendships and my personal relationships. In effect, it's helped me to bring life into rational balance. Okay? I've done a lot of thinking during this time on my own. And I think that's what's reflected in this card, in this 2-part reading. It's given me a chance to work out how to balance the scales and how to move forward in a balanced way. So, that is where I'm at. But actually, if I'm going to do that the best way possible, What this card tells me as advice, the High Priestess, is that I can't just trust that rational process. There are going to be things that I'm faced with that actually don't fit the rules, require exceptions, and quite frankly are just composed of the plain old unseen, unforeseen, unexpected. So what she says to me is that I'm also going to have to learn to trust my intuition and maybe a little bit of inner guidance along the way. I can't just work everything out rationally. It's powerful, isn't it? Two simple cards. Two beautiful images from the tarot, but containing so much meaning for a simple question. So what if we take that further? We take that into a 3-card reading. Let me just get these cards back in, like so. 3-card reading. Let's take it one step further. We're going to take a card for our situation. We're going to take a card for our challenge, our greatest challenge. And then we're going to draw a card to give us a clear way through. Okay? So that actually is, we're more or less asking the same question, but it gives it a little bit more detail. So, staggering the cards for our reversals. Okay. Do you know what, for this one I'm just going to take 3 cards off the top. So, situation. 9 of Swords reversed. Challenge. 10 of Pentacles reversed. Advice. 3 of Pentacles reversed. This is not straightforward like I wanted it. Never mind. We'll get there. Okay. My situation. The suffering and cruelty of what's gone before me has just been turned on its head. So in a way, that shows that if this card has come up in a reading like this, I'm on the way out into better things. Okay? So for my situation in lockdown, the stress that's been caused with lockdown as we ease, hopefully we're moving into better times. It's going to be easier for me to live a normal life. Okay? My biggest challenge, the Wealth card is in reverse. Okay? So my situation over the last few months has impacted my work significantly. My biggest challenge is actually making that good and turning that back upright. I've got a lot of lost ground to build on, okay? So, advice. Now, in this instance, the 3 of Pentacles, the card of collaboration, has come up in the reverse. So maybe what that's saying to me is that I need to focus more on my own individual projects than on stuff where I'm working with other people. Now for me, this is a clearly defined answer because my work has different strands. Some of those strands I work with on my own. Other stuff I'm working with other people. So maybe it's not saying that I shouldn't work with other people, but maybe my priorities need to be towards my own solo projects that I can sell. So 3 cards there, which have spoken very powerfully about my personal circumstances at the moment. So we could add to this again. We could make this a 4-card reading. We've got our situation in card 1. We've got our biggest challenge to be overcome in card 2. Our advice in card 3. Let's draw a culmination card. What we're aiming for, where we're going. So in a way similar to what we did in the last 3-card reading. Okay, so I'm going to shuffle, and when I'm ready, actually I'm going to take this one because that's what I feel. And I've drawn the upright King of Wands. So That's an optimistic encouragement for me because it shows me in a position of creative authority in the future. That's where I'm aiming, you know. For all the chaos of this year and all of the impact it's had on my work and my personal life, that's where I'm going. And the key for me is to find him within and to tap into his power, because he's there in everyone. He's there in me, he's there in you. So having drawn this, I resonate with this card, and that's for me to find him. I've got to look at myself and say, when have I displayed him? What areas of my life does he show in? If he doesn't show at the moment, what have I got to do to grow to become like him? That wise, mature, creative mentor, that respected authority figure in the workplace. What have I got to do to be him, to become him? So there you have it. That's our first journey into reading the cards. I've gone through drawing a single card. We've gone through 2 card readings, 3 card readings, and we've actually expanded into a 4 card reading as we draw this lesson to a close. Now, in the next lesson, if you're joining me, I will be looking at these basic techniques, and we're going to expand them into more complex spreads that will give us a richer picture and hopefully more enlightenment to the kind of questions we're asking. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join me next time. If you've enjoyed this lesson and found it helpful, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel to find out when I share new videos or go live. You can also find me on Instagram at Chris Butler Artist, on Twitter at Butler Tarot, and on Facebook at Sacred Tarot. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.